In this video, I'll be going over the most iconic Spider-Man love interest. Now, in order to qualify for this list, they must have been brought back after them initially dating, or mentioned at least, as just one-off dates don't count. As Captain Marvel and Peter had actually gone on a date once, but nothing came from it, so there was no flirtation at all, no story, no anything. Therefore, I don't count her as a love interest. So if there's a character who you think that does qualify as a love interest for Spider-Man that you don't see on this list, please just tell me down below. Don't be very hostile about it, because I know sometimes I make a lot of mistakes, and if I make a mistake this time around, I'm really sorry. For further ado, let's get started. Betty Brant, most known as Jonah Jameson's assistant, which is in 60s code, somebody that does the exact same amount of work as everybody else but is paid less. Betty's actually Peter's first love interest, along with being the first love interest in his actual first show. However, the character's on-again, off-again flirtation would come to an end because Stanley's insistence of that Gwen is the perfect girlfriend. But Betty would still stay a close friend of Peter's, along with marrying one of his actual very close friends, Ned Leeds, who would end up becoming Hobgoblin, which is a whole different thing. Personally, I really like Betty as a friend of Peter's, but not as a romantic love interest, as I think it's important to show men and women can be platonic together, as they very much just were friends who tried to be more, but just weren't a match. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, so I'm happy that Betty stuck around. Liz Allen. This relationship is actually pretty interesting, as Liz was also the girlfriend of Flash at one point, and was a part of the love triangle or love square that was Peter, Betty, Flash, and Liz. However, similar to Betty, because of Gwen being the ideal girlfriend, Liz was kind of just friend-zoned. However, the character would also, like Betty, marry a close friend of Peter's, that being Harry Osborn, whose child she actually gave birth to, and would become the CEO of Oscorp once Harry and Norman both died. However, that didn't last long. They never last long. Gwen Stacy, probably the second biggest of them all, but actually started off as a bully to Peter. But due to an abrupt change in artists who were actually writers too but weren't credited as such, her entire personality was changed to be the perfect girlfriend since Stanley based her off his wife. However, when Stanley went on a trip, the current writer had actually killed her off due to the fact that he gave him permission to, but Stanley at the moment was not exactly in his right mind. Stanley is known for having a very forgetful mind, and sometimes says yes to things that he doesn't remember. This was one of those things. The character afterwards would of course become a huge character and inspiration to Peter. Even though the character weirdly, despite the fact that it does have a lot of popularity, didn't really do much when she was actually alive. However, when she died, she became an extremely big inspiration to Peter Parker and Spider-Man comics. There'd even be a Spider-Gwen, who in my opinion is an amazing character and I like a lot more than Gwen Stacy. Sorry anyone who actually really likes Gwen Stacy. Personally, I don't really see the appeal. She was generally written to be the perfect character. No flaws at all, which in my opinion, well yes, could be the perfect girlfriend, isn't really the perfect character. Mary Jane Watson, Gwen's competition for Peter's love. However, Mary was actually pretty cool with it. She respected Gwen and Peter. And also due to the fact that this was seen as more or less, more common than the desperate love Gwen had for Peter, she was actually liked a lot more than Gwen back in the day. As well as the two competed for Peter's love, Gwen was actually kind of disliked due to the fact that she did used to be Peter's bully, while Mary respected Gwen and didn't overcross her boundaries. Therefore, Mary was actually the most liked character between the two. After Gwen died, Mary did 100% take her place. The character since has dated Peter and has even married him, and that marriage was erased by a demon after Aunt May got shot. Yeah, that was a big plot point and thing. I'm sure you've heard of it. I don't really want to get into it because doesn't really matter as opposed to this whole debate and rant to who I like most. Personally, I think Mary Jane Watson is, in my opinion, a much more realistic character than Gwen, as she has actual opinions and different flaws instead of just going along with everything that Peter wants. Instead, Mary is, in my opinion, a lot more supportive of Peter and calls him out when he's, being kind of an idiot. And I don't mean any disrespect towards Peter, because he's an amazing character. I love Spider-Man. But he does make some dumb choices sometimes, and Mary's there to call him out for it. Black Cat. This relationship is also iconic. However, Black Cat's shady activities, even making a deal with criminals to give herself superpowers, would push Peter away. However, Felicia Hardy still supports Spider-Man, with it being even said recently that she's in all ways over Peter, but still cares for him and still hopes that he cares for her. And not just that, but she's even made fun of Mary Jane. And the character, in my opinion, is an amazing character, who I believe is someone that is very different than Catwoman, despite the fact that a lot of people think they're identical. Which, I mean, yeah, they both have cat names, both are anti-heroes, both are bisexual. Okay, there is a lot of similarities, but there are also differences. And I think that is something that is very important to point out, as a lot of times people usually just say Black Cat is Catwoman light, when I disagree with that statement. Gloria Grant. Similar to Betty, her relationship with Peter never actually seemed to really get there. Instead, it was always really getting to the point where it just seemed like they were about to start dating, but never did. However, they were still considered as love interests to one another. Gloria is a neighbor, and since the time period, Gloria and Peter flirting was actually pretty risky, with Peter being a white male and Gloria being a black woman, making them one of the first interracial couples in comics if you include them as one. Which some might not, as they never actually really were a legitimate couple, but instead really ever flirted. The character like Betty, Black Cat, and Liz, she's still friends with Peter, but not as close with him as the others. Jill Stacy. This one is low-key kind of disturbing. You see, Mary Jane and Jill Stacy are very close friends. And when Mary Jane was presumed dead, of course she wasn't, it's the 90s, no one ever stays dead, and Jill, who's Gwen's cousin, was there to comfort Peter, which would grow into more. Yes, he dated his dead girlfriend's cousin, bonding over the death of his other girlfriend, who wasn't actually dead. And when it was revealed that Mary Jane was actually alive after being stranded after a plane crash, Jill and Peter broke up. However, this will be mentioned again by Gwenpool a couple years ago. And why? I feel like overall this whole relationship is just, ugh. Like, I know it's not that bad considering a lot of other relationships in comics, that being like Shazam and Stargirl, but still, it's so just... Why? I feel like it also kind of makes Peter come across a little shallow. I mean, not necessarily, but it does in a way. Same thing with Jill, the fact that she made a move on her dead cousin's old boyfriend and her dead friend's boyfriend. It's just a little odd to me. And last but not least is Mockingbird. This surprised me because I did not know that they dated. However, it was during a dark time in Peter's life, and he'd even end up sleeping on Bobby's couch, but would break up as Mockingbird found herself not being able to say really anything, in that she couldn't really reach Peter as he was depressed. Therefore, the two of them just broke up, and in my opinion, was done very well, as they easily could have made either or both characters unlikable. However, you get Peter's situation because of his mental health, and Mockingbird's stance since she's unable to reach him and feels like they can't really be together if he doesn't trust her. Personally, I thought that relationship was a little weird when you consider the fact that Mockingbird was married at the point Spider-Man was in high school. I know that Spider-Man is now a young adult, so at least they are close to the same age, but still, why is Mockingbird and Spider-Man the same age? It's a little weird to me, as shouldn't Mockingbird actually be like a decade older than him? That's not really brought up, but it is a question I have. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and see you guys next time. Bye.